Hi guys, welcome back to my channel if you're new here. My name is Abby and in today's video I'm going to give you some pothos tips. How I care for my pothos and what I do to look after them. So I honestly believe, I think a pothos is probably the easiest plant that I've had, and I find it really annoying, you know, when you get those things where it said like 10 plants you can't kill, and you get like a spider plant, which I've never had. You get aloe vera, which I cannot keep alive. I think there's a fiddle leaf fig, which I think is ridiculous to say you cannot kill that, because you can always kill that. But pothos, genuinely, I can't kill. So I will insert pictures of the pothos that I had, which is actually still this one, and there's one in the bedroom as well. I had it trailing up a wall, I had it hanging, it was like beautiful and huge in the flat and I loved it. And it's like a super easy plant to look after, and they come in so many different varieties. So we can see I've got a neon pothos here, I've got a marble queen pothos next to it, and I've got your normal green or golden pothos here. So we'll just go through what I do to look after them, and it kind of makes me feel silly recording this video because it really is so easy. So in terms of watering, I really do water when I notice the leaves starting to like curl in. It depends on your environment, and this will happen with any plant, but if you've got, well, we're in the summer months now here in England, it is warmer, the plants will dry out quicker. So you'll notice that you need to water them more. So I really don't recommend watering to a schedule for any plant. But if you were to water to a schedule for a plant because you just had to and you were just that kind of way, I think a pothos would work better for you because it has the ability to be overwatered without being really detrimental to the plant. It's a very forgiving plant, but I really do just water it when the leaves curl in and droop. It's very obviously visual, like when it wants watering it will tell you, which is really helpful and another reason why it's such a good beginner plant. But usually you just want to wait for them to obviously dry out and then water when it's fully dry. I really highly recommend you have drainage holes in all your pots. So you water it and then you let the water come out, and that's when I know that I've given it enough water. However, and it depends on how confident you are with plants, I have, I think, 2 pothos that don't have any drainage holes. The plant pots were beautiful and I trusted myself with them. So they don't have drainage holes, and I kind of just keep an eye on it with a shower head, and then I know how to gauge how much water I'm giving it. But if you're not confident, I really would make sure it's got a drainage hole and let the water run through, because with any plant you want the water to run past the roots and you don't want roots to sit in water. However, it really is a forgiving plant, so if you do kind of like mess up a little bit, don't be too hard on yourself, it really will bounce back. So in terms of lighting, again, super versatile. It can tolerate low light and it can tolerate high light. Ideally, you want to have bright indirect light. There's very few plants that like direct light, that I have anyway, apart from like my euphorbia, which it doesn't get direct light. So it really is another indirect sunlight loving plant. So I have them here behind me on the shelf, a couple of feet away from the window, and they do really thrive there. So lighting wise, non-direct sunlight is best, but they can tolerate higher and lower. This is all probably riddles to people that just want to know, but I really do mean it when I say they're really tolerable to different kinds of environments and care. So if you're a beginner, this is your plant. In terms of soil, like substrate soil, I give a really good balanced soil in terms of like it's probably more known as a common soil. So a lot of my pothos are in BioBiz because I repotted them so long ago. So BioBiz is an all-rounder and pothos are absolutely fine with that. You do want to make sure it is an airy mix, but it doesn't need to be like really airy, like as in like bark and pumice and loads of aeration, because again it's a very tolerable plant. But I do just use BioBiz for it. If I was to use the Grow Tropicals soil, which I'm using a lot of now, I would just go for jungle mix because it's a pretty all-rounder and they love it. In terms of pests for your pothos, I can hand on heart say I have had so many pests within my collection. It's very normal, it's not a taboo subject. Everyone gets pests, and it doesn't mean you're a bad like plant parent. I hate that term. But pests, I don't think my pothos have ever had pests, and I've had many experiences of all sorts, but I don't think they've ever had it. My Hartley philodendron was riddled with thrips when I didn't catch it. I just completely naively thought it didn't get that far from the bedroom to the kitchen that time, but the pothos right next to it was absolutely fine. So I can't say that it's a pest attracting plant. I really don't think it is. One thing I will say is do keep on top of dustering the leaves, because that's how pests can come to your plants, especially spider mites. So do dust the leaves down, because with pothos the leaves are so like flat and round, not round but flat and, you know, delicious, so lots of dust can just like, you know, embed on it, and it's really easy to kind of like just let the dust get too much, and then you're obviously attracting pests to it. So care tip wise, that really is it. It's the easiest plant. It's so easy to propagate as well. If you're interested in propagating, you just need to make sure you're like cutting in the correct place, and I've made a video on that, and I might do an updated version of it, because there's so many different ways to propagate, and there's so many different plants that can be propagated differently. So I might touch on that again, but they really are easy to propagate as well. In terms of variety, there's so many different varieties, and that's why I love pothos, because they can look like amazing. You can have them trailing, you can have them climbing a wall. Like I literally just use like sellotape to tape them to my wall, and it was the most amazing thing. I've just had a light bulb moment. I've got a white wall behind my computer screen, so that could be a little experiment to have like leaves up there. But it's just, they're so easy, and they come in so many different varieties, like I keep saying, like so many. I can't even imagine how many. Like the enjoy I've got, which I completely forgot about, which is here actually, one of them, that's a pothos. So yeah, amazing. But I'll show you some of the ones I've got, and kind of, they've all been watered, so I won't be able to show you like what they look like when they're thirsty, but it's really obvious. The leaves just curl in. So I'm going to show you my Marble Queen pothos first. This one is kind of going a bit golden pothos this side, you know, the variegation's like darker green. This side it's like really white, really pretty. But it's just an example of how it like trails down. There's a few vines here. This one's like the white one, and it's growing up. This one's growing down, and the leaves do get smaller when any kind of plant doesn't have anything to climb on. And this back one is going golden, like pothos-esque, meaning a lot more green. And I believe that's because that's next to the wall, and that doesn't get good light. This gets really good light, and this does. However, in my old flat, this was directly underneath the grow light, and it kind of shined like here. But yeah, and you can see I've got a big gap here. That's because they will go yellow if they're old or you've overwatered, and you can just like snap them off. They're really easy to just bend back and snap. But yeah, like I've had this for a long time. I'm getting new growth points randomly come out here. And with this one, it's got a drainage hole. I just wet the pot through, let it dry out, put it back in place. It's so easy. Okay, and this is an example of how a plant that needs watering will look. You see how the leaves are kind of pointing down. This sits in a pot, so the leaves are kind of like forced up a bit, which makes it look like they obviously don't need water, but they are kind of like getting soft to touch. It's not like resistant. And yeah, you'll start seeing the leaves will like, they usually curl in this way. But yeah, just a lovely plant. It's a neon pothos, this one. The plant is so luminously green, and then sometimes the variegation kind of comes through, but it's like the reverse, which I think is really pretty. This is probably my husband's favorite plant, I think. Just super easy, It's trailing really well, but the leaves are getting smaller, like I said. So if you do want the leaves to stay consistently big or get bigger, Plant Life in the Tropics on Instagram and YouTube, she does plants on planks, I think they're called, and she literally just gets a plank of wood and she trails them up, and I believe she's done it with a pothos, and like they can get absolutely massive. I'll insert pictures of giant pothos that I've seen online, and the leaves are just huge. And sometimes you see it in B&Q, like if you're not from England, it's like a DIY shop here in England. When they're on moss poles, the top leaves are huge, and then you bring them home and they get smaller. So you really do, if you kind of run out of like space, just like my philodendron here, you see the leaves down here are massive. If you can, that's a smaller one, but the leaves are huge and they get tiny because I haven't extended the moss pole. So it's not a fact that just like letting them grow on something, like sticking them to a wall, like I say, because I didn't see my leaves grow like bigger. They were just bigger than having them trail. If you do want them to grow huge, the aerial roots need to grip onto something and then it will grow. And that's why we have moss poles, because they usually embed into the moss pole, or plants on planks, like a plank of wood, it can really get into the kind of texture of the wood and then attach itself, and then you'll get bigger leaves. So hopefully that's a little tip that you guys can kind of experiment. We've got loads and loads of planks of wood. I just don't have the wall space. So once we do, I'm gonna really test that out and see how that goes for me. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. The takeaway is they're super easy, don't be scared of them. Get all the varieties if you can, they're so beautiful. And if you have any questions, write them down below. If there's any other kind of care tips that you would find interesting or helpful for you, write them down below. If I have them, obviously I will do a video of it. If I don't, then I can't help you. But yeah, hopefully you found this enjoyable and interesting to watch. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.